Stepsons, in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the heating element in an oven if you have something like this that fails. I was making some cornbread a week or so ago, and when I took the cornbread over to put in the oven, it was sparking like a sparkler. So what do you do if your oven heating element is sparking? First thing is keep it in the oven because the oven can contain it. But the next thing is to cut the power. If you anticipate a problem with an electrical appliance, then you want to make sure you know where your circuit breaker is in your house. You'll have an electrical panel that has circuit breakers and $50 of Monopoly money for whatever reason. Now this has all of the circuits to all of the electrical outlets and lights. Because the stove uses a lot of power, it has two circuits that are dedicated to it. If you need to cut the power to your stove in a hurry, go to the circuit breaker and flip that circuit and you will cut the power to it. The only tools I needed on this particular model to do this repair was a pair of pliers and a nut driver. Your model might be different. You might need a screwdriver, you might need different tools, but in this case it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward repair. I know that most of you watching this are watching it because you want to know how to replace a heating element in an electric oven, and that's fantastic. This channel is geared for young men growing up without their dad. That's how I grew up a long time ago. So I'm going to be speaking to you, my stepsons, in the process that you would do. So what do you do if you turn your oven on and you see the heating element start to spark? The first thing I did was turn the oven off. It kept sparking even after a few minutes. The next thing I did was pull it out from the wall so I could get behind it, because there's a plug back there. Once I'd pulled it out from the wall, I could get access to the plug, and I just unplugged it. After the oven's had time to cool, I came back to the back when I've moved it out, and it has this piece of conduit that protects the electrical. You can see the plug comes in here, and then it has this protector. So I need to get behind this. You can see that there's not a lot to the electrical in here. The power feeds come in to this unit. Remember, it's unplugged right now, so I don't have electricity going to it. There's insulation here that goes between the wall of the oven and the heating element and the heating chamber, and this is where the electrical connections are made. If you're on the Map to Manhood, this would be an activity that would be a special maintenance project in the home. So check that out on maptomanhood.org. Now you'll notice that on this particular design, if you lift this up, it's allowed to flex in the back so that you can raise this. That comes in handy for two reasons. One is you can clean underneath it. The other one is you need to raise it up so that you can access those two screws on the back to take it off. You may need to jiggle these with a pair of pliers or use a pair of pliers to get them off. And you'll want to note which orientation they're in. So I've got black on the right and yellow on the left. If you open the door to here, most of the doors will come right off at that point, and you just lift them up. With the oven door off and the shelves out so you have room to work, and making sure that it's cooled down if it had any heat in it, then you're okay to come in and take out these back two screws that are the only things on this side holding the lower heating element in position. And now it pulls right through the insulation. I've got the heating element that needs to be replaced out of the oven. And just like I did on the other one, I'm going to put these screws back in the holes so that I don't lose them. Somewhere on your range, there's going to be a label that tells you what the model number is. That's what you're going to need to find. It could be on the back by the electrical. There's a plate up here. That's just a caution plate, and it's so burned up I can't read it. In this case, down here on the storage drawer, right below this, there's a label here, and that has the model number on it for me. When you've got your model number, you take that, you come to the internet, and we're going to do an internet search. GE range model number JBP26WY4WW, and just see what I get. And when I do that, okay, GE appliances, I'm going to go there first because that will give me the part number. And this just came today so that we could finish this. Now let's compare this one to the one I'm going to replace, because I've got to make sure that it actually fits. This replacement part, I'm going to be looking for the mounting configuration, and in this case it also has the swivel feature, which is the same as the one I've got on here. The configuration appears to be the same. So with this now, I'm ready to go put it back in and reinstall it. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, then do me a favor and hit the like button. That way more people will get to see it so they can learn how to replace their heating elements. With the right replacement part and the oven cool unplugged, there's no power to it, I take the new element. I left these 2 screws in from last time so I wouldn't lose them. Feed this element through the insulation and then mount these screws into the holes. And as I put that in position, I'm going to lift the bracket up to where I want it to be, covering that hole, and now I'll tighten these screws with the bracket covering the insulation. We come back around to the back side now, and the 2 leads are fitting through here. I'm going to put the insulation back, then I can put the leads on here. Now this, I want it to go on fairly snug. It should feel like it takes a little effort to get it on there. I want to make sure I've got a good electrical connection. If you have a loose connection, you could have sparking back here. Not a good thing. So make sure you've got it pressed on firmly, and I can feel a little resistance, and I know I've got a good bite on that now. Do the same thing on the other side. So with those connections on firmly, they're not touching, I don't have wires close to each other, then I'm going to go ahead and plug this in and test it now before I get it all put back together. If for some reason it doesn't work, I don't want to have to take it all apart again with the door and everything else. Now that it's plugged in, you can tell it's got power, the clock's blinking, time's not set. I'm going to turn the oven control on. As soon as I feel warmth coming from it, I know it's working, I'll turn it right back off. I can feel warmth, so I'm turning it right back off. When you first run it, if you've put a new element in, it might smell a little funny. Sometimes that's just coatings on the elements that haven't been burned off yet. I wouldn't worry about those. You might want to run it without food the first time. If it always smells funny from then on, maybe something's wrong. So putting it back together on the front side, I'm just going to put the shelves in, and then we'll put the door back on. The door has slots in it, one here, and they drop right on top of the hinges. That's good to go. For safety, I'm going to unplug this again. So I've unplugged it again, just to avoid the chance of arcing or whatever. I'm going to take the nut out. There's a little tab here that this side can go underneath. I fit this under here, tuck that under the tab, push it up a little bit, get it in place, and then I can put the screw back on, the one screw that's holding this in position. With the cover back in place and secured, I'm going to plug this back in for the last time, and then we'll put the stove back in position. Now the stove's back in where it needs to be. It's got power. Set the clock. Now I'm going to give it a full run and let it heat up and set it to 350. Maybe I'll make another batch of cornbread and see if it works. Now, with it on, you can see that the new burner is working and there is heat coming out. For those of you watching, because you want to know how to replace your heating element, now you know how to do that. For those of you, my stepsons, that are subscribed to this channel, then always remember the 2 messages that I have for you in every video. You can still succeed, even though your dad may not be in your daily life. And you do have a dad that loves you, because this dad loves you. And I'll see you on the next video.